Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again, doing another discography countdown on one of my favorite bands. Today we are going to be talking about some black metal from Quebec in Canada. This is Forteresse, or Forteresse if you get a little French pronunciation in there. These guys just legends in the Canadian black metal scene. They only have 5 albums, but they're all fucking amazing. They really know how to put forth some really icy soundscapes, really harsh, just fucking epic stuff. It's very Quebec French folk oriented. They really throw some Quebecois folk melodies in there, and even some little pieces of actual folk music as some interludes sometimes. It's very unique. There's not too many black metal bands like this, and even from album to album their sound changes quite a bit. It's not all exactly the same. But yeah, anyways, I'm just going to get right into this. I'm going to count down from my least favorite down to my favorite. But they're all really good albums. There's only 5, so I mean something's got to come last. But by no means is this a bad album, so let's just get right into it. Coming in at number 5 is their 3rd album from 2010, Par haute bois et vaste plaine. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of this French stuff. I don't speak French. I am Canadian, but I do not speak enough French to pronounce all these. But yeah, this is their 3rd album. This is a very, this is probably their most ambient and atmospheric album. A lot of slower tempos. It's very droning. It's easy to get, lost in. You can kind of just get entranced listening to this. You gotta be in the right mood to listen to this album for sure. The riffs are kind of just background noise. There's not really song names on this album. It's just 7 parts. It's best listened to as a whole for sure. Just get immersed in it. This would be perfect music to go on a hike in the wilderness. It's just really depressing, sad atmosphere, but it's really beautiful as well. Like I said, this is only coming last because something had to come last, but this is still a really solid black metal album. Great atmospheres on here. And yeah, it's coming in at number 5. Up next at number 4 is their 4th album from 2011, Crépuscule d'Octobre. I'm not exactly sure what that means, something of October. I don't know the French pronunciations of this. This one is a little more back to black metal basics. It's not as ambient as the 3rd album. There's still an ambient intro, but then the rest of the songs are kind of more straight ahead black metal. It's still very atmospheric. The riffs on here are very triumphant. That's a word that you can't really use for a lot of black metal bands, but the riffs that Forteresse plays, they really have a triumphant feel to it. It's so epic. They're so proud of their French heritage, and it really shines through in the music. My favorite songs on here are La Lame de Passe and Spectres de Solstice. Once again, I'm pronouncing these wrong. But all in all, this is a really solid album. It's only coming 4th because the top 3 are fucking amazing. So let's get into those. These next 3 albums, this is really tough decisions because all 3 of these albums are absolutely amazing. I could easily put any of these at number 1. This is really tough. The 5th and 4th spots for me were pretty easy, but these top 3 are really fucking tough because this band is so epic and so great. But let's just get into it. Let's see what I think. Coming in at number 3 is their debut from 2006, Metal Noir Quebecois, or Quebecois black metal, basically. Oh yeah, this is the album probably with the most French folk incorporated in. The cover has a famous French violinist, and they've got some nice little interludes in there, dispersed throughout the album. This album, at this time, there was only 2 dudes in Forteresse. One guy doing vocals, the other one basically doing everything else. I believe the drums are programmed on here. But this album, it's more straight ahead black metal. It's not as, there's not really any ambient parts at all. It's still very atmospheric in nature. They really create these swirling, icy soundscapes. The riffs are just so fucking powerful. The atmosphere's so triumphant and cold. It just really brings you the French feel. It brings you to Quebec. Not too much black metal does that, but these guys are the masters of it. My favorite songs on here are Honor et Tradition, La Maison de la Liberté, Une Nuit pour la Patrie. Just all in all, a really solid black metal album. If you're not into the more ambient stuff, this is probably a good album to start with Forteresse. If you've never heard them before, this is their debut. It's a little rougher in sound, but the songs are just like more straight ahead black metal, but you'll hear what I mean with the tremolo riffing and how triumphant it sounds. It's really unique, but it's fucking great. The vocals are so fucking harsh on here, just so in your face and raspy. And yeah, this album is absolutely amazing. Coming in at number 3. Let's move it right along into number 2 is actually their most recent album from 2016, Them per la Rebellion. This is by far their most just straight ahead black metal album. I don't want to call it their most accessible album because this is not accessible by any means. This is like the most violent black metal fury you will hear. This music is so ferocious and aggressive. It's by far their most aggressive album. It's just like straight ahead fucking black metal. The riffs are so fucking crazy. The drumming is nuts on here. By this time they do have a full band. It's not just 2 dudes, so it's not programmed drums. This is an actual drummer. The songs on here are so in your face and the vocals are so harsh. This is one of the most ferocious black metal albums I've ever heard. It's absolutely amazing. My favorite songs on here, Spectre de la Rebellion, Là où nous allons, and Le Sang de Héros. Just all fucking great songs from front to back. This album's just amazing. There's a nice little like ambient outro at the end, but all in all, this one is not really on the ambient side at all. Not even so much like an atmospheric black metal album. This is just straight ahead black metal, but I absolutely love it. It's fucking amazing. Almost made my number 1. I almost put it there, almost switched it last minute, but I decided to stick with my number 1, which is their second album from 2008, Les Hivers de Notre Époque. I have the poster of that one up there. This is just a black metal classic. This is a very ambient, atmospheric album, but the riffing is still very fucking great. It opens with like an ambient intro. This is much more atmospheric than the debut. Like this came right after the debut and the sound is like completely different. There's still, the riffing style is the same, but this just adds so many more layers and so much more atmosphere. There's like a few folky interludes that add a little more ambience in the middle of this album. So kind of just interspersed in between songs. This is just like such a harsh and cold torrent of tremolo riffs, just black metal riffs, so crazy. It is a little bit simplistic in its approach. Like maybe these riffs aren't the most technical ever and they do repeat a little bit, but that's to kind of just build the atmosphere. This is like the definition of atmospheric black metal. This album really just takes that to the next level. It's like trance-like. You get lost in this album, much like the third album, but this album I feel does it way fucking better. And this is just a really classic album in the atmospheric black metal subgenre. If you've never really got into that, it might not be for everyone, but definitely go give this album a listen if you haven't heard it. My favorite songs on here are Ancient Voix, or like Ancient Voice, I think that means. I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't speak French. Ténèbres is another great one, and Déluge Blanc. All in all, just a really fucking killer album that you can easily get lost in because of the great atmospheres. It'll really just bring you into the middle of winter. It sounds so harsh and cold. It's so good. Anyways, that's my list. Let me know down below what your favorite Forteresse albums are. Let me know what you thought of this video. Give me a like. Give me a subscribe. Until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.